So I finished the second part of Mistborn. I think it's called Rebels Beneath a Sky of Ash, and I want to talk to you about it. I'm going to go through what I read, what I thought about it, and most importantly, my predictions for the book going forwards as well. So obviously, there's going to be a ton of spoilers. Let's jump into it. I feel like this section was all about expectations. So he began, Brandon Sanderson, of course, when I say he, began by raising my expectations. We had a lot of scenes where Vin was training. She was training against Kelsier, and also she was doing a great job. She was faster, stronger, more able and adept than Kelsier was when he was that far into his training and learning how to be and use the powers of a Mistborn. So I'm over here thinking, wow, she's the one, the chosen one, she's gonna be awesome. And that gets built up for the most of the section. We think she is going to be just very powerful, and also Kelsier is extremely powerful as well. So I'm starting to think it's not gonna be a cakewalk, but it looks like we have a shot at succeeding against the Lord Ruler and his empire, which has stood for all of living memory. So then we get Vin and Kelsier's, mainly Kelsier's idea, well, all of Kelsier's idea, Vin just kind of comes along as well, to enter Credit Shore. Credit Shore, really cool name for a place. It sounds like a back alley shop, maybe in Diagon Alley or something like that, not like a grand palace. So I thought that was cool and interesting. So Credit Shore, they try and enter Credit Shore. They're trying to find this room that Kelsier knows the Lord Ruler goes to, and he's not certain why, and it's where he got captured last time. And lo and behold, they almost get captured again. And we've spent all of this section building up Kelsier and his abilities, building up Vin and her abilities for them to be hopelessly outclassed when they get there. And I'm not 100% certain why they're outclassed. Maybe the Steel Inquisitors and Obligators are simply more powerful than them. That might be the case. But these two are Mistborn, so I thought maybe not. Maybe they have access to a new metal, but it didn't seem that way because there was no abilities. They definitely had Atium, but there was no abilities that we hadn't been explained before. So I'm not 100% certain. Maybe Kelsier and Vin just aren't as good as they thought they were. And this was our main storyline from this chapter. And it basically goes to highlight how difficult the journey is actually going to be, because when we're planning it out, it seems easy. It had a very Gentleman Bastards type of vibe to it. Hey, we're going to do this, this, and this, trick this person, steal that, run this, not prank, what am I looking for? Fallacy, run this ruse, run this, scam, that's the word I'm looking for. They run a scam and then everything falls into place. But this was a lot more hard reality. So they go in, they get their butts absolutely whooped, and then they have to lick their wounds after that. And it really was a reality check for the story and for our main characters as well, which I really enjoyed. So we do get a few other points of interest and storyline developments in this section. One is we learn a bit more about the Terracemen, and we learn both from Sazed, and we also learn from what I still think is the Lord Ruler. I'm like 99% certain, giving his account of his pre-ascension before every chapter. And we learn that the Lord Ruler, I believe, wiped out all the Terracemen that he could find. And we also find out that the Terracemen have some kind of power which isn't explained, but we get the word Metal Mind in this chapter as well. So I have plenty of predictions based on that we're going to get into. The other storyline that we get is we also follow Vin's attempt to infiltrate the nobility. And this definitely began as, again, something that felt like it belonged in the Gentleman Bastards. A lot of ruses and disguises and essentially big scams and fraudulent activities, which is always good fun. But when we got there, it was much less of that. And she ends up bumping into young Master Venture. And honestly, it felt kind of cheap. I don't know if it was planned by Master Venture or if it's going to come to light there was actually a predestined conversation that somebody had planned. Maybe it was Sazed, maybe it was Kelsier, or maybe it was Master Venture. But if they literally just bumped into each other, it did feel a little bit cheap. I'm always honest, and I was a little bit disappointed with that interaction. However, they clearly have not feelings for each other straight away, but they feel some type of way about each other. They did have an interesting interaction. Vin at least likes young Master Venture, so that is a relationship that's going to be probably very important in the future, if not pivotal, realistically, because there's no way that would have been as clumsily and easily shoved in there if it wasn't going to be pivotal. During all of that, we also meet Vin's father very briefly, and she does not care at all, not even a little bit. It barely gets a couple of sentences. So she is completely switched off and disillusioned with her father and who he is. She does not care at all, which I kind of dig, because obviously he's a bit of a deadbeat father. But he also, on paper, what I know so far, is responsible for her getting the powers that she has. So I think he's going to be really important moving forward as well. I have some predictions about him. So honestly, that is pretty much it for what happens in this section. It really felt like it was a lot of preparation for the twists and turns in the future. We got a lot of little tidbits of information and glimpses at things that may happen and just hints and clues. So I'm now going to jump into my predictions based on what I've read here for what's going to happen further down the line. And they're probably going to be pretty bad. We shall see. So first we have to talk about Sazed. Sazed is the only terrorist man that we've met that's left over, and we know that the terrorists are clearly deeply involved in the Lord Ruler's ascension to godlike status. So I think Kelsier, there's no way in hell that he manages to defeat the Lord Ruler. He doesn't seem capable. I think what we're priming for is Sazed. Not necessarily going to defeat the Lord Ruler, but is going to be the one that battles the Lord Ruler in a moment of need and uses this power that we believe the Lord Ruler fears, that we got like a glimpse of. Metal Mind. It clearly at least allowed him to travel really quickly to save Vin when she was escaping from Credit Shore. And well, I say escaping, was essentially being hurtled and beaten out of there. So the least it can do is allow him to travel quickly, which isn't enough to beat the Lord Ruler. So there must be something that he can do, a power that Terrace has, which we already know they do have a power, I just don't know what it is yet, that the Lord Ruler is scared of. So my prediction is Sazed will have the final battle with the Lord Ruler, not Kelsier. Another thing that happens is, though, we see the inside of Credit Shore, the Lord Ruler has these rooms that are very religious. And we get what looks like a holy text. And I think like 90% certain it is a holy text that Vin conveniently picks up to defend herself from the metals. And it comes with them when they escape. It's then identified as something that was in the Lord Ruler's language pre-ascension. And religion is interspersed in this story a lot. Like it's chucked in there loads. So I think it's going to be really important moving forward. So what are my predictions? It's hard to tell, but my prediction is maybe this book is the religion that the Lord Ruler actually subscribes to, because he says to the world, that he is a god. So that's like a quite a simple way to set yourself up as a dictator or like running a cult. People do it quite often, you know, on the Netflix documentaries and things. They say, I am a god or I am a prophet. And it's because it allows people to believe in them and believe they're divine. And it basically stops like any ideas that you could do that job, because you can't, because they are a god, right? So maybe he actually subscribes to this religion that the book and the holy text is talking about, but he can't tell anybody because that would take away from him saying that he's a god. It's not foolproof. I don't know why he would have it there and allow his Steel Inquisitors and obligators to see it, but it was really the only thing I could think of. But religion is a clear undercurrent for this story, and it has to come in, because there must be a reason why Sazed and Terracemen in general have all these religions in their head and they want to spread them. There must be some kind of power in that, some ability in that. And I'm not sure if Sazed even knows why he wants to do that. It's just like in his culture, but that must have been ingrained maybe during the Lord Ruler's rise and when he was committing genocide. If he was committing genocide on the Terracemen, I don't know how they disappeared, but it's pointing in the direction that he got rid of them all. So the need for a different religion must be important, and it must undermine the Lord Ruler somehow, and that's the only way I could think of. So that was long-winded, but hopefully it made sense. Now, another thing that happened in Credit Shore was either the Steel Inquisitor or the Obligator, I think it was the Obligator, was very concerned as to who Vin's father was. He kept on asking, which of the nobles spawned you? It's clearly a crime. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. And that would also undermine the Lord Ruler if, you know, a lot of Scar were Mistborn or Mistings of some type. So I don't know how, but her father is obviously going to come into the story more because he was just shoved into some scenes with her earlier. And I think, going back to my Reem prediction, I made a prediction last video after the first part about Reem turning up somewhere. I now think Reem is going to turn up somewhere in his father's house to do with their father as a whole. So that's my prediction on the father Reem Vin situation. And what of Master Venture or Venture? He's got to be a Mistborn, right? There's no way he's not a Mistborn. There's no way one of the noble houses doesn't want to overthrow the Lord Ruler. I don't think they should be fostering any relationships, or I don't think Brandon Sanderson would be fostering any relationships between Vin and a noble house if they were not to join forces in the future. However, we still need to watch out for this large betrayal that is inevitably going to come to Vin because she is so obsessed with it, and of Reem's teachings as well. So what is going to happen? Is he going to betray, or is he going to help? I think he's going to help. I think he's clearly a Mistborn. Well, not clearly, but my guess is he's a Mistborn. I would guess he's a little different to the rest of the nobles because it was tried really hard to paint him in that light. And maybe he discovers what they're up to, and maybe he decides to help as well. That would be my guess. But the biggest thing of all is what could be in the room they were trying to get into. So the facts, and by facts I mean just what I can remember from the story. We know the Lord Ruler goes in there, I think alone, and does something. We're very certain that the metal Atium is in there. We have some clues that there's an 11th metal because Kelsier believes there is, and it would be strange for it to be continuously mentioned if it wasn't there. So I was trying to put all of these things together. And we also get some more information on the Lord Ruler's powers. And it's things like someone burned down a home that he was in, or a house he was in, and he came out barely anything more than a skeleton and remade himself from there. None of the metals that we know about can do that. So what I was thinking was, what seems quite logical is the Atium has to be involved, surely. But maybe the Atium is used in a different way. Maybe you ingest it in a different way. Maybe you boil it. Maybe you smoke it. Like, I don't know. But clearly, none of the metals that we know about, including Atium, because our characters have eaten it, or used it, or burned it, sorry, didn't have any of those powers. So either he is ingesting it in a different way, or he's like adding something to it, or something. Like, he has to be doing something to the Atium that's different to what everyone else is doing with it. Maybe he's using it to predict the future and predict what's going to happen. I don't see how that would help him with the like coming out burned situation, but you know, if it shows you what someone else is going to do, if you take enough of it, maybe you can see what like the whole earth is going to do in the future and make perfect decisions, or I don't know, make scientific discoveries where you're like, well, if I do this, this, and this with these chemicals, this will happen, but you don't actually have to do it. So you can do like a million examples at once because he's the only one with enough Atium to be able to look that far into the future with enough things. I don't know, it's confusing. The only thing I know is, and what I'm predicting is, the Atium is not just solo the answer. It is the key to something bigger. Something is added to it, something has changed. It can't be used in the same way our characters are using it now. It just can't be. So overall, am I enjoying this book? Absolutely. I'll be honest, Brandon Sanderson has a very, in this book at least, has a very direct and simplistic approach to writing. And not that I don't like it, I do like his approach to writing. It's very action-packed and the pacing is really good. However, it hasn't made me fall in love with his world that he's created. However, what I am in love with is the systems, the rules, the clear setup of what's to come, and just the possibilities of this world as well. Whereas with books like The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini, which I read when I was obviously much younger, and Murtagh just came out, or Murtagh, so I'm really excited to read that as well. I just got my copy, so I'm going to be making some videos on that at some point. And then also things like The Wheel of Time, like the level of description in those books makes me fall in love with the cultures and the world, and I want to just live in it. Whereas this one has made me fall in love with the story and the potential that's there, like what could happen in this story as well. So yeah, I'm having an amazing time. It was a great recommendation for all those who recommended it. But honestly, what I'm most excited for is I like a little bit of mystery, and it's clear there's going to be mystery throughout, but the info dumps by Brandon Sanderson doesn't quite suit me. So what I'm excited about is the Terrace or Terraceman and the Lord Ruler's pre-ascension. That is what I'm most excited about right now. Obviously, I'm quite excited to get to the bottom of everything, but that storyline, I am hungry for more and to understand what happened back there. So that is what I am most fired up about. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this style of video, I did this for the entirety of the Wheel of Time, and I also did this for the first lore for Joe Abercrombie, and those videos are on my page as well. Other than that, have an amazing day, and I'll see you at the next video.